You a little short for a stormtrooper?
What's up, nerds? Welcome to another episode of the Multiverse Report. We are recapping the week's... I almost went right into the week's nerdy news, but no, we are recapping the first 3 episodes of Star Wars Andor on Disney Plus. From Ferrix to Canary and everywhere in between. My name is Mike Gibson. With me as always is Steve Haller. What's up, Steve?
Well, this is now a, what is it, B2 Emo Stan podcast?
Yeah.
Because that droid is amazing.
Is that its full name? B2
Yep.
Emo?
EMO, yep.
Hilarious.
And he's a very emo droid, which is mildly hilarious.
He really is. I was thrown, clearly we're jumping right in. Here we are talking about the first 3 episodes of the new Star Wars series Andor on Disney Plus, starring Diego Luna and a bunch of other people and a cute droid. I was really thrown by that droid because has there been another droid that speaks fluent English but doesn't look like a human being?
Not off the top of my head.
The one that I didn't care for in Rise of Skywalker spoke English, or spoke basic, but only like one word at a time. D-O.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
no, thank you. No, thank you. No. But this is just like...
Full
Cassian,
conversation, yeah.
Yeah, full conversations like 3PO. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was thrown at first. I was like, this kind of looks like a proto R2-D2, yet speaking fluently. I was like, ooh, I've never seen this before. Cool. I like it.
Yep. No, yes, we went whole ham on the droid first off, but I'm gonna throw it out there. Yeah, I'm just gonna throw it out there at the top. This was some of my favorite Star Wars I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, it was great. I loved it. I loved it.
So
I saw somebody on Twitter say this before I watched it, and I completely agree with it. It said, before I watched Andor, I forgot that Star Wars could be something other than just reminding you about other Star Wars things that you liked.
Yeah, I think that might be that hits the nail on the head of what we've actually been talking about for a long time on our podcast.
Yeah. Say what you want about the Disney era. Some people love it, some people hate it, but I don't think you can escape the fact that they do a lot of self-referencing in all of those movies.
Oh, yeah.
Including Rogue One. But,
but I feel like to a lesser degree, story. Like my 2 favorite things that have come out in the Disney era have been, Andor notwithstanding, have been Rebels and Rogue One. Yeah. And those 2 things, of anything, reference the least amount of other Star Wars.
Right.
So
yeah, I agree. I think this is great. I'm excited to see more, but I really love what we have so far. And it feels like I read a snippets of an interview with Tony Gilroy, the creator of this show, and he talked about how he just created it. He thought about it. He thought about what it should be, not how it should be like a Star Wars thing. He thought about it just what if it doesn't. He came up with a good story that was a good story regardless of what universe it took place in.
Right.
And he really wasn't into all the being super self-referential to other movies or anything like that. He's like, I'm just going to tell a good story, and I think that shows, and that's what a lot of people have wanted for so long. It's like, we don't need a Skywalker in every episode, or a reference to a Skywalker in every Star Wars piece of media that we see. Disney, like, you can just make a good story and we'll watch it. Throw a droid in there and it feels like Star Wars, and this really feels like that. Like, it definitely still feels like Star Wars. I see a lot of people saying that it feels like Star Wars for adults for the first time maybe ever.
Maybe Mandalorian notwithstanding, but
yeah, Mandalorian certainly skews older for sure.
But again, I don't know. Up until Luke shows up at the end of, spoiler, the end of Mando season 2 a couple of years ago, until Luke shows up, that's again another piece of Star Wars that's very non-Star Wars referencey.
Yeah. Season 2 of Mando is a lot more Star Warsy than season 1.
Yeah.
Of Mando for sure. Although still felt like Star Wars, and this feels like Star Wars, but there's only 3 episodes. No Jedi, no lightsabers, any even really talk about stuff like that, and I feel like that's probably gonna continue based on this interview that I read with Tony Gilroy, where he talked about how he doesn't need everything to feel like Star Wars. He said, as a quote from, he said, in every department, we've had all kinds of people come in and they know it's Star Wars, so they change their behavior, they change their attitude, they change their thing. An actor will come off of a different movie, they'll put on a Star Wars costume, and all of a sudden this great actor who auditioned for you and didn't really know what they were auditioning for at the time because everything's so secretive, all of a sudden they start acting differently. And you go, wait, no, do your thing. You're here because we want you to be real. So it's a testament to the potent power of Star Wars. It really gets inside people's heads, but to change the lane and do it this way, it takes a little effort. It's interesting. So basically he's saying that he hired these great actors that came in and started behaving as if they thought they needed to behave in a different way in order to be in a Star Wars movie.
Right.
And he's like, no. Just do your thing. Just do you. I want, your actor thing. Which is great because it doesn't feel like they're dumbing it down. It doesn't feel like they're doing it for kids or something. And I wish someone had said that to every actor in the prequel films.
Yeah.
They were making those. But yeah, and I feel like you can really see that he's not treating it like it has to, it has to say the word Skywalker every 10 seconds or something like that.
Yeah, which is extremely appreciated.
Yeah.
Like there's no
the very
reason
beginning
to not.
Yeah. The very beginning I thought looked like Blade Runner when he's walking through that town, going to that brothel. I was like, this is getting some cool Blade Runner vibes. And I thought it was interesting that the first time, or I guess not the first time, but within 5-10 minutes of seeing Cassian Andor again, we get a similar encounter than when we met him for the very first time in Rogue One, where he murders somebody in cold blood. In this version, he shoots somebody point blank in the face with a blaster.
Yeah.
Wow. Holy wow.
Oh yeah. Yep.
That's
after accidentally killing one guy, it's like, well, guess we got to clean up here.
Which it really seemed like that was the first time he'd ever killed anybody. Did you get that? The way he reacted? He was like upset.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. Yep. But then made the decision to do it again immediately and blasted a dude's
like, how am I getting out of here?
Yeah. Yeah. Wild. So, I don't know. What are your... I feel like I'm talking a lot. What else did you like or dislike or love about this?
Well, up until the 3rd episode, I completely disliked the flashbacks and seeing what was going on Kenari.
Oh, really?
It just seemed very disconnected. And then as soon as you figured that, I mean, you knew there was going to be a through line, but as soon as you figured out where the through line actually was, I feel like it made much more sense, which is probably also why they dropped all 3 episodes at once. Not just that, but,
I think so too.
The first, it's what, a 12 episode season or something like that?
I think so, yeah. It's long. Yeah.
So getting that first chunk kind of out there, I think was a good move for them, and we'll see week to week whether this continues or like whether it's as kind of through liney as the first 3 episodes were. But to see him effectively kidnapped by the rebellion.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I thought that was. I agree. The first 3 episodes really kind of establish a bit of an arc for him and explain some things where if they had just dropped the first episode, it would have been like, okay, what? Because I said to my wife while we were watching it, she was very excited to watch this show as well because the trailers were so great.
Yep.
And she loves Rogue One as well. That I turned after the first one was over, I was like, I'm surprised that didn't end with like a big reveal or something. I feel like most first episodes, especially of like first episode of Mandalorian, they reveal Baby Yoda. And they at the beginning of that, and that's like a holy shit. What is
where are we
show?
Going now? What is this?
Yeah. And they didn't do that with this, and it's like a new series. Like, yeah, we know the character, but if they hadn't released another episode, to start right after that would have been like, okay, it just kind of ended. Like it just ended right in the middle of the story and then picked up in the second episode. And just like, yep, okay, all right. And so by the time we get through the third, and then we're like, okay, he's got this like Imperial tech he's trying to sell. Is he just doing it for the money? Is he doing it to try to get off planet because he just murdered 2 people? Is he doing it to really try to find his sister? Is he actively trying to join the rebellion? We don't know any of that, and they don't tell us any of that. Well, we find out that he's not actively trying to join the rebellion by the episode 3, but we don't really know what his goals are besides, I killed 2 people, so I have to get off this planet. Like,
right.
I guess he's looking for his sister, but how important is that to him versus the money for the tracker device or whatever that he was trying to sell? I don't know. So I think by the time we got that arc to at the end of episode 3, and not the completion probably of his story of his younger self, but something that tied into the rest of the series, I think you're right, was definitely a better way to end that right there.
Cyril Karn, thoughts?
I don't know who that is.
That would be the smarmy officer.
Oh,
that apparently at the end of episode 3 had the I've seen some shit look, but prior to that was a bit of a patsy.
Only guy in the whole show with an American accent. I noticed that was cool. I really loved where I think he's going. It's not like a completely original plot line for like an antagonist, but you're told not to do something, you do it anyway, you make it worse. So you make it worse for yourself, as in you're gonna get punished, or you are now in direct.
Yeah.
You're in trouble with your people, your superior officer, but also you have now also further ingrained your vendetta against this guy that you have more to blame on this person that you are chasing now. Like, not only are you trying to get justice for your fallen people that he killed, also you're blaming him for ruining the relationship you have with your superior officer and your standing within your organization, assumedly. So, like, whether or not he's still a part of that, space cop, program or whatever.
What is it? Wasn't Corsac? It was something.
He's going to have a personal now vendetta against Cassian Andor, which is going to propel him through the series. So yeah, he's like a power hungry, trying to keep everything.
I don't even know if he was. I don't know if he ever felt power hungry.
I think he
just
did.
To me, it felt like he just wanted to do, like, they killed people. We need to, like, they killed our people. We need to do this. We need to investigate. We need to find out. Yeah,
he's a by the book kind of guy.
Very
but
try hard.
Yeah, very much a try hard. But I think I think there's like kind of some inherent power hungriness there. At least I read that in the way he was portraying it.
I did hear
his willingness to go over the head of his superior officer in a way. Like, well, it doesn't matter what he's going to say, because when I do this, everyone's going to love me so much they're not going to be able to say anything about it. Like, that's kind of like what I read his motivation as.
One thing I saw was the comparison to McNulty from The Wire.
Oh yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah. I heard that and I'm like, oh, okay, I gotcha. That kind of makes sense. And if anyone who's listening to this has not seen The Wire, stop listening to our podcast and go watch The Wire, because it was just really damn good.
Yeah, I haven't seen the whole thing. I got to finish it. But anyway, and I loved, like, they make it clear that he is way in over his head. He's not prepared for this. Maybe part of him is seeing what his superior officer meant when he was like, it's not worth it, it's too much, like, but it's too late. He's boots on the ground, he's getting shot at, he's getting, bound and gagged and left. And that look on his face at the end is like half I am fucked, but also half I hate this guy, and I'm going to do everything I can to put him in the ground.
Right.
But what I really like about it is that, they're like the adversaries, and this is a way to make it like not super referential. These aren't Imperial naval officers. There's no stormtroopers around. These are just like space cops. They're like low level, just like district police officers.
Well, and that, I mean, is
and
that
I just
like
I
is
like
that
that
showing?
I like that it's small time, I guess.
Right, and I think I'm wondering because this is still it's 5 years BBY. So
loved that they said BBY. Is that the first thing that's ever officially used that?
When they put it up.
I don't remember a movie or a show ever actually using that as officially using that as a marker of time. I know, we do online and we do in the fandom and stuff, but like maybe they did in the novels, but I never remember seeing a movie specifically say BBY.
Yeah, so it was established in the old EU that they were using, like the New Republic, of course, used the Battle of Yavin as this is our timestamp. But I don't think any of the modern canon is ever utilized.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm talking about the canon, the films, and the shows and stuff. I had never seen.
Yeah, I think that might be. Yeah, but
when it came up, I went, "Whoa!" Oh. and my wife goes, "What does that mean?" I was like, It means." She goes, "Does it mean before Baby Yoda?" I was like, "No, it doesn't mean before Baby Yoda." She's like, "I think it does." Great. I was like, "You can think that, but you're going to confuse yourself if you think that, because these are very different time periods." But whatever.
Yep. But yeah, I guess being set like that, you're looking at an area that's not been touched by the Empire,
right?
Or that this is like, I'm sure this force is subordinate to, if stormtroopers showed up, they'd be out of job. Course. But yeah, of course. Like, you're talking, let's take where I grew up back home. You're taking the Boonville PD versus the sheriffs versus the state troopers versus this is small town. So
which is what I love about it.
Oh, it's great.
I think, the whole thing, I think it's great. Yeah. And I think it'll probably escalate as he gets further involved with the rebellion. I think it will really escalate. As
in the trailer, we're seeing like the Galactic Senate. So
yeah, exactly. So we're gonna get there, but I just really like, and then that's like our antagonist. Like, how is he gonna be able to keep his vendetta going as his casting gets like farther away from his rinky-dink operation, rinky-dink in comparison.
Right.
But this is kind of like, I always, when people say they want stories that are in the universe but don't have anything to do with like the Skywalker family tree or anything like that, I get that. But I also think it's difficult to put stories in that same timeline. And like, I mean, they figured it out in some ways. Like, they do stuff that's between trilogies or whatever. Right. But to have something that's in like the same timeline where this huge storyline is going on over here, like, how do you make this other storyline feel exciting, but also doesn't take away from like what we've been told is the big battle that's going on up here? You know what I mean? But I think, and again, this is before this story is between trilogies,
right?
But because it's such a smaller time thing, then it works. It shows you can get an exciting story that isn't going to conflict with any major events or major battles or anything like that, but is still going to be exciting because it is low level. It's like I always say about, when it comes to comics and superheroes and stuff, like I prefer like a street level Batman, Daredevil, like vigilante who's just like stopping bank robbers and stuff, and I don't need everyone to save the galaxy every time out.
Oh yeah, I mean that's why, like, I mean I've talked about it numerous times on this pod, like the old EU stuff. My favorite stuff was the fighter pilot, like the Rogue Squadron and Wraith Squadron stuff. That the stakes were, they're taking down a warlord with a Star Destroyer, but it was never like, Luke's flying with them or something. It was always just the squadron and how they worked and what they did and the inner machinations, and like it was very removed. Like, it was a good story set in the Star Wars universe, and there's enough world building that can be done in this universe, that has been done, that could be done. And this actually, like, this first 3 episodes did a ton of world building. And I think if they can take anything from this, it's that like you said, Tony Gilroy himself said that he didn't go out to make a good Star Wars movie. He went out to make a good show.
Yeah.
And that's half the battle. And,
I agree.
The fact that nobody to this point has really just tried to take it and run with it of like, let's take something set in, somewhere out on the Outer Rim, have nothing to do with anything else, and just have it look like Star Wars or feel like Star Wars, or, maybe there's an off reference to the Hutt Cartel or something.
Sure,
and like, there's plenty of
ways.
Use some of the familiar alien species, reference the Hutt Cartels, whatever, and just do something off in the ether. Doesn't have to tie into anything. It's just there. Something like that would be great.
Yeah. When they first showed us that device, that Imperial device that he's trying to sell or whatever, I thought it looked a lot like Vader's chest plate thing at first, and I was like, "Holy shit! Is that like a part of Vader's armor or whatever?" And I was like, "No, okay, I get something. It just looks Imperial designed, which makes sense why it would look similar."
Mm-hmm.
I guess before we wrap up, I'll say this because you mentioned Tony Gilroy, and I saw like a rumor. I don't know if it was confirmed, but that he's being asked to do more for Lucasfilm, more in the Star Wars universe after Andor. And they, in this interview that I read with him, they talked about how they pursued several other people to create this show before coming to Tony Gilroy, or coming back to him, I guess. And I guess there were a lot of other creatives that were kind of boxing themselves in, according to this article, with what they felt like was a necessity to lean into that nostalgia aspect of Star Wars that so many other people at the Disney era have done before. And he said that when Kathleen Kennedy came to him and asked for his thoughts on Andor series, he laid out some like huge plan, and he said, quote, "I wrote this big manifesto for her. This is what your show should be like. This is what you should never do. This is why this doesn't work." So it was a crazy thing. It was wild and ambitious. And they were like, "Well, that's really great. Thanks for helping us know what's wrong, but we could never do this." Then they tried a couple other things. And when everything had gone cold, there was a moment where they thought, well, and the quote kind of trails off, but suddenly streaming was more than it had been, I guess, when they were having initial thoughts, and they realized that, oh, now we can't actually do this thing that you're saying. So maybe he doesn't say what time frame this was, but it could have been, they might have been talking about maybe a Cassian Andor film after the success of Rogue One, as we know that they, like, Obi-Wan was originally going to be a film, Boba Fett was originally going to be a film.
Boba Fett could have done for being a film.
Yeah. So if he wrote out this giant thing, maybe they said they can't fit all this in one. This is too much for one film, and then it became a streaming thing. Like, oh wait, we can actually do this now if we're giving you 12 hours instead of 1 or 1.5 or something. So he's clearly got, in saying that he wrote this big manifesto, he's got ideas for this character. He's got a love for this character and a love for this world. And as long as he can keep nailing it and doesn't, as long as he can stick the landing at the end of this series, I'll be excited. I'm all in on this show. I really
absolutely.
Love it. Yeah, we didn't even talk about any other characters, but I feel like I love all the characters, even like I love them and or hate them appropriately, as I am supposed to.
Yeah, they're very well done. Luthen, Stellan Skarsgård's character. Wow, try and say Stellan Skarsgård 3 times fast.
Skarsgård's character.
But yeah, that was just great. Like his just cold demeanor.
Yep. Yeah.
And like
I've been in this for a lot longer than you. I don't give a shit, dude. Like, yeah.
And half of it's like, okay, this is where Cassian gets that down the road. So I was very, very happy to see that. Trying to think of Bix, like that whole Bix and Tim side plot.
Was that her name was Bix? I thought he was saying Vix with a V.
Nope, Bix. Yep.
Okay, yeah.
And apparently her other half is Tim with 2 M's, who got
2 M's. That makes it Space Tim. Yeah,
exactly. Not to be confused with Mr. Horton himself.
Yeah, you gotta love in Star Wars how there's like all these wild names like Poe Dameron and Leia Organa and whatever. But then every once in a while there's like a Tim or like a Luke. Like those are fine names. But you also have Qui-Gon Jinn, Obi-Wan Kenobi, all these wild names. But somewhere there's like a Kevin on Tatooine or something.
Right. Obi-Wan Kenobi trained Anakin Skywalker, and Anakin Skywalker had a son named Luke.
Luke. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, I am excited for episode 4 of Andor. I hope that we meet Mon Mothma pretty soon because she was touted as another main character in this series, and I can't wait for that to happen.
Yeah, I think.
These two tie in together.
Yeah, I'm assuming now that he's with Luthen, he'll probably head. They'll probably have an episode or two gallivanting, and then find their way to the rebellion or like a pocket, and then bring in the bigger players as it keeps going. Because we do have season 2 already, planned out and timelined.
That's true.
So
yeah, they already announced the season 2.
So yeah,
awesome.
We'll see where that all ends up, but it should be good moving forward.
All right, love it. Can't wait. For those of you, if there's anybody watching live, you should know that. You do know that we just did a House of the Dragon instant reaction to episode 6 of House of the Dragon. It was fine. But we're also don't go anywhere because we're about to do our weekly recap of news. Spoiler alert: it might be a pretty short episode because there's not a whole lot of news this week. But we're still giving you 3 episode of content this week. So
because why not?
Because why not? Because we're gonna talk about this stuff anyway. So want to do your wrap up on the stuff?
Yeah, if you're just tuning in strictly for Andor, find our other stuff at themultiverseport.com, on YouTube at The Multiverse Report, any other socials, same place. If you're watching this, you figured out we're on Twitch. Beyond that, any of your podcatchers of choice, like, subscribe, leave a review. It really helps us out. And yeah, that's it.
All right. So stick around for the weekly news recap. And until then, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the multiverse.
Okay. What was that? Andor. Andor 1.